Hey there, welcome to the garden. My name is Anna. I'm here in my small little urban garden getting ready for fall, and a big part of that is getting the unheated greenhouse set up and ready to go. Now the frame has been up all summer without the cover, as you can see, and it was full of a whole bunch of plants. So I had a bunch of grow bags with eggplants, the pumpkin on the stick eggplant, which was so fun, and I had the butterfly bush in there, which is now out here, and a few other things growing in that space. And they were just basically coming to the end. I noticed that the eggplants weren't putting on any new flowers, and so I felt like, you know what, it's okay, let's pull it all out. And it was kind of a rainy evening last night, but I just came out here and I was in the mood, and I got the whole thing just all cleaned out. Does that ever happen to you? Sometimes you just get out in the garden and you get started with a project and it leads to another thing, and you just get in this like cleaning mode and you just go for it. That's kind of what happened. I kind of just got into it, but it was good. We got it all cleared out, and now we were getting it set up for fall. And I wanted to talk through with you the seeds that I'm going to be planting this evening, why I am planting those, some things to think about if you have one of these little plastic greenhouses. So the frame is off, and it is still off. I'm probably going to keep it off for another, I don't know, 2-3 weeks at least. Right now it's still September. It's pretty warm out. We're getting temperatures in the 80s during the day. At night it's like 60 or 70. 80s during the day, even with all the doors and windows open with the cover on, will be well over 100 inside this greenhouse. Way too hot for the things that I'm going to be planting in here. So I'm gonna leave the cover off and just wait till it starts cooling down. I don't know, maybe once it's in like 60s are the highs during the day, then we'll put the cover back on, which may even be to the end of October. We'll see. In my area it tends to stay pretty warm through to end of October. But I'm still gonna plant some cool weather crops in the unheated greenhouse because I basically just want to get them going while there's still some good sunlight. You know, the days are getting shorter, so I want to take advantage of the sunlight. It is getting cooler during the day, so hopefully they'll be okay and they won't just bolt right away. But once we get into the cooler temperatures, I'm basically going to be using the unheated greenhouse this fall as season extension to try to keep my cool weather plants growing a little bit longer. So I still want to plant cool weather things. We're just gonna leave the cover off, and then we'll just use that cover kind of like you would, I don't know, like a row cover or something, I guess, to then put on over to add a little bit of protection and all of that. I wanted to talk a little bit really quick about the setup of this greenhouse in case you're new here or you haven't, seen it in a while. I'll talk a little bit about the location, and then I will go through the seeds that I'm planting, and we'll get them all planted up in the greenhouse. And then I will probably do another video when I get the cover on, and I'll just keep you updated throughout the fall season with the season extension, fall gardening in the greenhouse. But let me turn the camera around and show you the setup that we've got. So one of the things you're going to notice right away are the grow bags, and these are super important both for growing. It's a nice big growing space, but they also weigh down the greenhouse. So when the cover is on, wind is a big issue for these little greenhouses, and these grow bags actually sit on top of the frame. There's the bottom of the frame goes along here. They actually sit on top of that and hold the greenhouse down. These are 15-gallon grow bags. So super important. I have, knock on wood, never had an issue with the greenhouse blowing away, and I really attribute it to the grow bags. But they're also nice because you can plant into them. So that's really handy, and that's what I'm going to be doing this evening. And then I just have a few other containers. I did take out, so there's shelves. You can see the wire shelves. I took out them for this one because I'm going to grow some taller things, I think, in here. I want to use this whole grow bag, so I don't want to have all of the shelves on. But this shelf, I put a couple little containers, and then over here, we've got just a big window box full of flowers. Eventually, I will clear these out and put some cool weather crops in, but for right now, especially while we've got the cover off and everything, they're so pretty that I figured I might as well leave them. I just love the look of these, especially in fall. They're so beautiful. I have an empty space for impulse planting, I like to leave a little bit of room since my garden is so small. One of my #1 small garden tips is to leave space for impulse purchases and impulse planting so that you can still go to the garden center and have fun, or go through your seed collection and have fun, come up with new things and not feel like you're ruining your plan. You can just kind of like plan to have some unexpected things happening. So I haven't planned anything for that shelf. We'll leave it. And then with these 2 grow bags over here, I'm actually just gonna plant, I think, in the front of them today. I'm not gonna plant the whole grow bag because I don't want things growing up and hitting these shelves. One of the only things that's tricky about planning for these greenhouses is that there's not a ton of room. This middle shelf here, like lower shelf, I guess, there's not a ton of room. If you do anything growing in the grow bag, you know, you want to leave space for things to grow up. I've had a few times where the greenhouse has gotten a little wild with tall things. I grew peas in here and they were kind of like going crazy. And so I'm just trying to do a little bit better planning for that this year. But I think this setup will be perfect. And then once the cover's on, I will tie it to the fence to help secure it again from the wind. We'll have the door open out here. That'll be easy. This is a south-facing, very full sun, bright area. It's nestled up next to the house, so it does get good protection from the wind. I also think it keeps it a bit warmer, and there's pavers and stones on the bottom. Yeah, it's just kind of like a funny area in the garden because we've got the air conditioning unit and everything here, but it works perfectly to have a greenhouse in this space. And the stones and everything and being up near the house, I think it keeps it a little bit warmer and helps to retain some heat. I find as long as you get a little bit of sun during the day, the unheated greenhouse, if I keep it closed, will stay about 10 degrees warmer. So if it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit outside, it'll be like in the 40s in the unheated greenhouse. So it does do pretty well. Even though it's completely unheated, this is just gonna be one of those little plastic greenhouses, no heat whatsoever. It's still, yeah, a pretty good setup. And so hopefully this fall, it'll give some of these seeds just a little bit of extra warmth and will give them that boost to get a little bit more harvest. So let's talk through what I'm going to be sowing. All right, seeds, always fun to chat about. I've got a pretty good stack. As I said, these are all cold weather fall crops. We are not doing any like summer annuals. All of these can handle a little bit of a frost. The unheated greenhouse will stay, even at night, about 10 degrees warmer than the outside temperature if we've had sunny days. So if it's a bright sunny day, that's great. It'll stay warm, it'll stay above freezing. But if it's a really cloudy day, if we have a few days of rain, it kind of goes back to right around the temperature of the outdoors. Now, it does protect from the frost, right? It has, you know, the plants are covered, so they're not getting that like intense frost, but it's still, it's not enough protection to like, well, it's not like a heated greenhouse. It's not going to keep a citrus plant or a tomato happy. It's not enough warmth for that. So I wanted things that could all probably winter over outdoors, maybe, or do pretty well outside for most of the winter in my zone 7, zone 7A. So every so often we'll get like a really cold snap that will get down like 10s Fahrenheit, but that's just like only happens randomly, and a lot of times my kale and collards and everything just completely winter over and are totally fine. My green onions do really well over the winter. And so it just kind of depends a little bit on the year, but all of these can handle a bit of a freeze. So if we have a cold night in the greenhouse, it's not going to be a super big issue for any of them. They will all do fine and hopefully thrive with, yeah, as I've been saying, the little warmth that's provided by the greenhouse. So here we go. The first thing is bunching onions. These are so great to grow in containers. They like to be, oops, I'm gonna have bunching onions in that container too. They like to be close together. They like to go in bunches. They will winter over in my area just outdoors, outside the greenhouse. So I'm hoping to get just like extra growth, because most of these things kind of stop growing when it gets really cold. And so hopefully, maybe we'll get a little extra growth on these. But this is the Tokyo Long White Bunching Onion. I've had really good success growing this particular bunching onion variety in containers in the past. It's really delicious and easy. And bunching onions are just a really fun one to have in your garden, because it's like when you have a recipe that needs 2 green onions, you can just go grab them from your garden. Yeah, just a super awesome. They are a bestseller, according, it says on the back, at MIgardner, and I can see why. They are great. Another winter classic is kale, and I am going to do scarlet kale. I'm just going to put a little bit of this, I think, in one of my grow bags. Really super cold hardy. These are some of the most cold hardy kale. I think Super Frost 10 tolerant. I'm going to grow some of these outside. I keep dropping all of these seeds. Oh my goodness. I'm going to grow some of these outside in the garden beds, but then I also wanted to just see kind of what the difference would be growing them in the unheated greenhouse and kind of do a little bit of a test there. So it is kind of fun sometimes to test the differences, and I want to experiment a little bit with how that goes. And another one I'm going to experiment with is Swiss chard. So these are all salad greens. I like to have Swiss chard, kales, everything. I just like to mix them in with any of my salads. The Ford Hook Giant is a great kale. It just grows really beautifully, and kale does well in hot temperatures, but it also does well in cold temperatures. It's going to be super cold hardy. It's going to be really happy. Let's see. Production will increase with every harvest, so I can cut and come again. And that's my plan with all of my greens, is to just harvest the biggest leaves around the outside and then let new leaves flush up and just keep a continuous harvest. That way, hopefully I can just keep harvesting out of this greenhouse. So that'll be really nice, because we'll just have lots and lots of harvests. Another one that I'm going to grow are the upland cressy greens. These are kind of like a fun thing to add to salad. They're a little bit different. You can saute them, you can add them to salads, you can add them to smoothies, but they're really fast growing. So I'm going to grow these just because I know that they'll grow really fast, and you can harvest the buds and the shoots and the flowers and everything too, and it'll just be really fun to have something that kind of starts growing in these grow bags quickly. And the days are getting shorter. Sometimes with fall planting, things go a lot slower than you would expect. They definitely go a lot slower than they do in the spring, and it can be a little disheartening. Now, we are still pretty early. It's just the second week of September, so hopefully there's enough sunlight that these things will get growing. But I know that the upland cressy greens are going to grow really quickly, and they have lots of vitamins and things. They're really good for you, I'm pretty sure. So it's kind of like a win-win. I'm going to do a few lettuces. I'm actually going to make my own lettuce like mix. You know, you get those lettuce mixes when you can often get like a mescaline mix. I'm gonna make my own. I'm gonna do it in the big grow bag where I have the open space. And so I'm going to do Forellenschluss, one of my favorite lettuces. It is a really pretty romaine lettuce. It has like these freckled leaves, just grows great in containers. I just talked about it in my last video where I was planting a bunch of greens out in the garden in containers. It's just a really delicious romaine, and if you like a great romaine that grows well in containers, I recommend this one. It's always done great for me. And then I just grabbed a couple more that looked very different from the Forellenschluss, because I wanted to be able to really tell which lettuces in my salad mix were doing well. So that was kind of what I was going for when I decided to make my own salad mix. I'm just going to pour all these seeds in my hand, make a little mix, and sprinkle it in, but I'll be able to tell which one is doing well or not, because they look very different. So I grabbed this Gustav salad, which is a butterhead. I have had trouble in the past with butter head lettuces. I don't know why they haven't grown well for me. I love butterhead lettuce though. It's so like soft and like it just has such a great texture. So I hope it'll grow well. And then I also got the cinnamon lettuce, which just has like a really pretty color, and it's just going to add some bright red and hopefully just be another yummy lettuce. But they all look very different, and so this will be a really fun little lettuce mix. And that'll all go in the grow bag. And then in a couple of the containers too, we're gonna do one container of a dwarf snow pea. I have had mixed results growing peas in the fall. Typically I start them in the spring and they do beautifully for me, but I want to try a few in the fall in the greenhouse and just to test out how this goes. These I grew in the spring in the greenhouse and they did really well. They were really good, and they're just a dwarf snow pea, so a nice crunchy snow pea, just for some snacks. I mean, I'm gonna grow just a few of them in a container, so I'm not gonna have like any kind of a huge harvest from this. The lettuces, I'll actually get like a decent harvest. I'll be able to really make salads with the lettuce, but and the kale and all that. I'll actually be able to really have like enough for my family. We don't eat that many salads, but you know, so we can have a salad every night with dinner or something. Snow peas, this is just gonna be a snack and kind of a novelty and something to taste and have fun with. And then I also want to do a couple herbs. I'm really curious to see if I can get some better herb harvests throughout the winter. Herbs are pretty cold hardy. I moved my herb container into the base of the greenhouse. I cut everything back because it was all kind of looking a little bit pest ridden and stuff from the summer. Hopefully that'll reflush and keep growing in the greenhouse. And I may even, this empty shelf that I don't have plans for yet, I may do herbs on there and get some more herbs like thyme and oregano. I think a lot of them, winter savory, they all do really well in cool temperatures. So this would be a perfect spot for them. But I'm also going to start a few from seed right now too. Now, not all herbs are cold hardy. Of course, basils and things like that aren't, but parsley is super cold hardy, and this is a really cool moss curled parsley. This is, let's see, this was mentioned in a seed catalog in 1896. It's a super old variety, super cool curled moss, and you can start it in fall. So we're gonna try this in the greenhouse. And then dill does a little bit better in cold temperatures. I don't know how frost hardy dill is. It may not be, but I do have like 6 weeks until frost, so we'll see. But Tetra dill is one of my favorite dills. It's like a really bushy full dill. So if you have any trouble even in your summer garden and you want dill and you find your dill is kind of like stringy and you don't get a lot of like leaf harvest, try Tetra dill. It's a really full dill and you just actually get like a lot of leaves. It's one of the only ones I've had really success with. It's actually supposed to be a slow bolt variety, so it's supposed to handle the heat, and I am planting into a little bit of heat right now. As I said, the days are, you know, it's 80 degrees. We just got out of a really big heat wave, so hopefully it's starting to cool down, but yeah, you know, it would probably be, the fact that it's slow bolt probably won't hurt anything, and maybe it'll last in the cold, and maybe my greenhouse will provide that much protection that I'll be harvesting dill for Christmas dinner. We will see. But anyways, now I'm just gonna plant everything into these containers, and yeah, let's go do it. I'm going to try to keep myself organized with my different seeds because it is quite a few seeds. So with the bunching onions, I do plant them pretty thickly, I guess, for a container, because they're going to all grow together like in a bunch, and instead of growing them in separate little bunches, like the whole container is going to be a bunch. So pretty thick packed is okay. And then they will, I'll just harvest around and the other ones will get bigger, and I kind of just harvest the big ones. I'm just going to kind of like gently pat that in. And then these are what I am using to protect from squirrels. So that's what we're doing with that. And then we will do the parsley over here in this container. And again, I'm not gonna, let's see, I'm gonna sow quite a few because I want to fill the whole container with parsley. Not like dense like I would baby greens, but I want to have a few plants in here, and I doubt they're all going to get so huge in the next couple months that it's going to be too big a problem. Put that there. And then last over here, we're going to do some of the peas, and then my thought is they can grow all the way up the side and it'll be really pretty. And I'm just going to do like a little handful and put a few around, not overdoing it. I need to come out ASAP and make a chicken wire cover for this, because the peas are something that the squirrels are going to want to eat. I know it. So that'll be on my list. Okay. All right, make your own salad mix. Here we go. Putting all the seeds together. Mix them up. And we'll plant them in. All right, we got everything planted, and I definitely am going to make sure I get out here and get the squirrel protection on these other few containers. That's gonna be my first thing I do tomorrow. But this way, at least I got the planting done, and I was able to tell you a little bit about it. So I put the cressy greens over here, and the kale and the Swiss chard here. We've got dill in there. I'm so curious to see how this is all gonna go. And I will switch this container out. We'll probably add some more herbs. Here's that herb container, not looking amazing. But I just cut everything back, so hopefully it will all kind of fill back out and look good. I absolutely love these, little plastic greenhouses. I know they're not as great maybe as a full heated greenhouse, but we don't all have space and everything for one of those, and I'm excited to see how we can do it. Some things work and some things don't. I have found that these greenhouses are a little bit hit or miss. I've done a few videos, I will put them down below, where I really talk about a lot of the tried and true great things that have worked well for the greenhouses and some of my rules. And I'm kind of pushing a few of the limits. I don't know what's going to happen with the dill. That may be a complete fail, but it's always kind of fun in the garden to do some of those little trials and try new things. And I think it is really good to try to utilize this greenhouse. If nothing else, I will definitely be able to utilize it in the spring. I have lots of great seed starting tips and things that you can do for these, like starting perennials in here and growing different spring crops in here, starting some of your spring crops. But we're gonna try it out for fall and see if we can't do a little bit with it in the fall too. So very fun project today. It feels good to get that planted. I'm starting to feel like it's time to pull out some of these summer things. I've still got peppers and zinnias, but I'm getting ready. I'm starting to feel ready to pull those out and get the rest of the fall garden in and going. Well, the air conditioner is turned on. That is my cue to say goodbye. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon.